Good afternoon all. All right, I'm gonna bring you over here first. So I am super excited that you are here today. If you're watching in the Facebook stream, awesome too. And so I'm gonna stop sharing for a bit and put you all, so if you wanna switch to gallery view, that's what I usually use with my kids. I will ask you to go ahead and keep your mic off, but your video on. You can leave your video off technically for now because I'm going to go over a few things first before we get into the actual rehearsal. But again, I'm super excited you are here. My name is Michelle Rose, and I am a virtual teacher full-time. So this is my full-time gig. I teach middle school, 8th grade general music, high school music appreciation, and then I also started a virtual ensemble, which is virtual choir and also virtual band / orchestra. So I am going to kind of take you through my process today, and hopefully it will help you all out with this transition to online learning that we have suddenly found ourselves in. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And so in Zoom, you can see at the bottom, and please don't do this because I have it enabled, I think that you can technically share, but if you press the share button, and then I always do advance in portion of my screen, so I just share part of my screen, so that way I don't have to put this in presentation mode because then I can't see the video on the side. But all right, so welcome. I will say at the very beginning that I am, band is my primary jam. Like, I was a high school band director before this, and that is what most of my training is in, but so many of my kids wanted to sing in choir, so I have been doing my best. I'm sure there are so many of you in this group that are really incredible choir educators, and so I am trying my best, so try not to judge too harshly. Band is definitely my main training, but I have been taking voice lessons to try to get better. I think that as music teachers, never stop learning, so the main thing that I've been focusing on is taking voice lessons recently, which has been super helpful for me for this. All right, so today, like I said, I'm going to show you how I run my virtual rehearsals, and all I ask is that you keep an open mind. Okay, so this is going to be different. It's probably not going to be like anything you've experienced before, but just keep an open mind. And if you decide that this isn't really for you and your students afterwards, that's okay too. But just wanted to give some ideas for people who are looking to still be able to, have some sort of rehearsal. Okay, so on the outset, just want to state that this rehearsal is not, and I guess I can sit down. I'm used to, so usually when I run this rehearsal, I'm like standing up and my kids stand up right away. And so I'm like, wait, I'm not sitting. I don't give them this whole spiel, so before we rehearse. So this rehearsal is not, it's not gonna show you how you can hear all your students at once with excellent sound quality. So that is just not possible right now. Maybe sometime in the future as internet speeds improve and technology improves and all of that. But right now, you just can't go into the same virtual space and all play and it all sound like a beautiful, symphony or choir or whatever. It's just not possible, but that doesn't mean you can't rehearse, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I just want to put that out there on the outset that there isn't going to be an option for you to just do that. Which is a bummer because, that would be the ideal situation, but we will make it work. And so this rehearsal is also not going to replace the experience of in-person singing. So I think a lot of people are freaked out, like, oh, if we can do this online, then this is what our admin is going to make us do forever. And as a virtual teacher, I promise you, we are not going to be replaced by robots. We are not going to be replaced by computers. I was actually planning an in-person event for my virtual ensemble students to come together in one place in North Carolina and be able to perform and sing together, and it got canceled because of COVID-19. So even though I do teach virtually, we also have opportunities for students to meet together and do things. We have prom in person, graduation in person, and we were going to finally have a choir rehearsal in person, but it unfortunately got canceled. My students were super bummed about that. So there is no replacement for in-person singing. This is kind of second best. But our kiddos deserve to still sing in some way, and so this is the best that I've got for my kiddos and hopefully for your kiddos too. Okay, so why should you do this? first and foremost, I just want to put it out there that you've probably been inundated with tons of information and learning new things and all of that, and platforms and accounts. And so this virtual rehearsal is a little bit easier than having to set up content, than having to figure out how to post things and coming up with worksheets and stuff. If you have, if you know how to run a rehearsal, that's like the biggest part of this. The second part is just, what I'm going to show you, how to do it. And so it's not going to take up a ton of your time. Also, I only rehearse twice a week for 30 minutes with my kids. So you don't have to make this an hour every day. You could make this once a week or twice a week. Make it optional if your kids want to come and sing. So it does not have to take up a ton of your time or your kids' time. And it does not have to have a lot of planning. All you have to do is schedule in Zoom, send the email out, not at 3:45 a.m. like I did this morning. Sorry, some of you who signed up early. I've been inundated with questions. I've been trying to help as much as possible, so I've been, making a mistake here and there. But I am here to help you, and this is honestly the easier part of my online teaching. Teaching music appreciation, teaching 8th grade music, I have to put a lot into that because I have to, plan the PowerPoints and then plan what kind of engaging activities I'm going to have for them and how is it going to be graded and all of that kind of. This, kids just show up and we rehearse. So even though this is a complex idea, don't feel like it needs to be complex in, how you set it up. If you have a rehearsal plan in mind, you just got to understand how to use the technology to fit it. Okay, so other reasons why you should have a virtual rehearsal. So yes, we want kids to practice on their own, and I'm sure a lot of your kiddos are singing on their own. But the thing is, in rehearsals, I always tell my kids, sometimes we just gotta eat our musical broccoli. So, I was in high school once. I was a flute player. I know my band director told me to do long tones. My private lesson teacher told me to do long tones. And did I frequently do long tones when I was warming up? No, I didn't. Because I was in high school and I had limited time and I was like, I don't want to do long tones. But having these rehearsals, you're getting the technique, kids are going to be getting a full vocal warm up. They're going to be, practicing vowel sounds and that kind of thing. So it gives kids that structure to do the things, the technique things that you really want them to be working on as we're out of school. The other part is that it encourages practice. So if you're taking advantage of the free smart music, which 10 out of 10 do recommend, that is what I use with my students. I find that if we don't have a virtual rehearsal, less smart music assignments get turned in. Now, granted, my choir and my band are extracurricular, so there aren't grades attached to it. But still, just seeing kids face to face and then going like this, you got to turn in your smart music assignment, log in right now, go ahead and do it, is huge. Even though it seems very simple, like I said, I sometimes, there are weeks where I can't have a rehearsal, but I assign something in smart music, less stuff gets turned in. So having that actual rehearsal helps kids to kind of get to the point where they will turn things in. And then lastly, and I think this is kind of the most important thing, especially with, everything that's been happening recently, is that it creates community. So it's awesome just being right here and seeing, a bunch of other music teachers. And my kids, I took a survey at the end of last semester and I said, what was your favorite part or what did you really like about, being in virtual choir? And a lot of them said, I got to see my friends face to face, or I got to be a part of something, or, I liked being able to chat with people and also sing with them. And so, in a time where our students might feel overwhelmed or anxious or stressed, this is a great way for them to kind of come together and feel safe and feel like, oh, I remember how to sing. Oh, there's my teacher. Oh, here are my choir buddies. And, we're part of this community, even though everyone's, in separate spaces. So I think, are we going to make the world's most perfect choir from this experience? No, but that's not my goal. My goal is for me to get kids together and to sing and to make music. So going to talk real briefly about how and why I developed this model, and then we'll go into rehearsal. So basically, I teach kids from all across the entire state of North Carolina. So kids who come to my virtual school, they're in grades K through 12. And so I would have kids, in all different parts, and lots of families and students were asking, how does my kid join a choir? How does my kid join band or orchestra? And the thing is, not every community has community choirs, bands, orchestras that kids can join. And I just remember thinking, like, man, being in band, being in musical theater was just such a big part of my, childhood and middle school, high school years growing up. And I just really wanted to provide that for students, especially, it's tough finding a place where you belong, that kind of thing. So I truly believe that every child deserves a high quality music education, and that includes virtual students. So that kind of set me on this journey to figure out how to do this. And so I thought, all right, Eric Whitaker, he's awesome. He already figured this out. He's got a virtual choir. Let's do it. But I realized that a lot of the people, well, pretty much all the people in Eric Whitaker's virtual choirs are professional musicians or high-performing, high-level amateurs. So these are not really, your average student that's in your choir class, which is okay. But that means that they need more structure. You can't just say, okay, go ahead and learn this piece and then sing it into whatever, and then I'll put it together and it'll be beautiful. It was missing that rehearsal component, because that's what we do every day. We rehearse. We don't just say, okay, show up in 3 weeks and we're going to go ahead and sing this perfectly together. So then I said, okay, I figured out the missing link. It's how to have a rehearsal. How do you have a rehearsal without being physically present? That was the challenge. And so I'm going to take you through how to have a rehearsal. So here we go. Now, leading up to this rehearsal, here's what I would have done. Like I said, I use smart music. So I assign, different chunks of music in smart music. And by the way, if you're sending me things in the chat or on Facebook, I will check them at the end, I promise. But for now, just to keep things going, if you have an urgent emergency, you can raise your hand at me physically if you're here. But I will try to answer things at the end, okay? All right, so leading up to rehearsal, I'll assign something in smart music. So it'll be just a couple of measures. You don't really want to assign a whole piece, because I find that when the longer the assignment is, the less likely it is to get turned in, especially if you have students who are perfectionists. They will just say, well, if I can't get it perfect, then I'm just not going to turn it in. And so, a smaller chunk ensures that, they can master it and turn it in. So I will listen to that chunk. So for example, today I think I said, all right, we are going to review measures 5 through 19. So I would assign that in smart music, and then I would listen to everyone's submissions, and, usually some common things pop up. And, you can kind of even anticipate that before you even listen to things. Like, you look at music and you're going to say, oh, okay, they're probably going to struggle with that there. Or, I'm going to need to remind them to breathe there. Or they're going to forget that, they need to crescendo here. And so you kind of already have an idea of what students are going to need help on. So through this, I kind of learned that I had to trust my musicianship, and also look at the visuals that I'm seeing. So I know you all are trained musicians, so it won't be, quite like that. And I'm not going to correct you all today, but looking at students, and that's why I have them go up Brady Bunch style in the gallery view, I can see, our kids opening their mouths when they're singing. Are they breathing from up here, or are they breathing from their bellies? You can tell a lot without actually hearing students. And it really helps you realize how much goes into making music that isn't the sound part. All right, and so I kind of make my list of common mistakes that I'm hearing. And like I said, today is going to be an alto sectional. because that is the part that I learned for Between the Bells. And so I will say, okay, for altos, I'm going to go over these 3 things since we only have 30 minutes. And then we'll go over that. Then every 2 weeks or so, I take all of the recordings, combine them together. I just use GarageBand, and then I let my students listen to what it is, what they sound like as a full choir. And so I don't recommend doing this if, you are going to just be out for 2 weeks. However, if you're going to be out for an extended period of time, I know it's kind of up in the air right now, but might be something worth doing. It is a little bit time consuming, but like I said, it really does help my kids to feel like they are part of a full group. And it also, you can hear, if, kids are blending or what's, happening with the other parts and when they're put all together and all of that. So just something to keep in mind. I think I am going to later this week do like a quick walkthrough of how I use Smart Music, Zoom, and GarageBand to kind of make this all happen. So stay tuned for that. I'm just trying to work out what I can fit into my schedule because I think I will still be teaching as of right now, since I am virtual. Okay, let's get into the actual rehearsal. So this is the slide that I will display for my students. And so this is what they see when they come in, so this is what I will display, something like this, and I'm like pointing, like you can see, I do this to my kids all the time. I'm like, why can't you see what I'm pointing at? But they will see this slide the first 2 to 3 rehearsals, just so they get an idea of like, oh, how do I test my sound if I'm not hearing anything? And so I highly recommend, putting this up. I will, what I'll do is I will make a slide deck of this so you can have this too. But otherwise you're going to get like 50 messages of like, I can't hear, like, how do I troubleshoot sound or whatever. If you can just put it on this main screen, it will save you a lot of frantic typing in the chat because they're not going to be able to hear you, so you're going to have to type really fast. So with this, you can just kind of, see them, show them, here, point at that. But once my kids kind of get used to this and they've all been into Zoom before, I just put up the agenda so that way they can go ahead and pull their music out, what kind of warm-ups they can expect, and I always say, welcome to choir. Usually I put the start time. We'll be starting at, 2 minutes after whatever I said it was. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now since we have come to the point where we are going to do choir things. But like I said, this is what I usually show students so that way, they just have an idea of what's going to happen. And like I said, I am currently sharing through the part of my screen feature. So the people who are in Zoom only see the green box. The people who are watching Facebook can still see my whole screen, but people in Zoom, you can see just the pretty parts. All right, so now, if you haven't done so already, I need you to turn your camera on so I can see your beauteous faces, is what I tell my students, and then I'm going to have you stand up. What do you mean? I finally get to sit down. It's the weekend. This is why I teach online. I can sit in my comfy spot. Nope, we are standing up. We are standing up. Yes, I'm going to make you do it because your students are going to feel like this too. They're going to be like, oh, what do you mean? And yes, I see some of you even stretching already. So we are going to do a physical stretch, and I'm sure a lot of us has been really stressed out like this, so it'll feel nice and good. And we're going to release all the tension from our bodies so we can sing without tension. So go ahead and start by rolling your shoulders back. Oh, release all that tension. And in the opposite direction. And then go ahead and roll your head in one direction, nice and slowly stretch it out. And then in the opposite direction. All right, and then go ahead and reach up and stretch over to the side. I always feel like an exercise instructor when we do this one. And to the other side. And then go ahead and reach up and then reach down, touch your toes, and just hang there like a rag doll for a moment. Shake your head no, gently. Shake your head yes, gently. And then go ahead and roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. All right, go ahead and give your body a little shake. And then I want you to go ahead and put a lot of tension in your shoulders and let them go. A lot of tension in your shoulders and let them go. One last time, lots of tension in your shoulders and then push them back and down. All right. So now I tell my students, life is so unfair sometimes. I'm going to sit down, but you're going to keep standing. I'm going to play piano. That's why I need to sit. I know. Usually my students grumble at me a little bit. All right. So we are, for the sake of time, we're going to go into that second breathing exercise that I had. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to hiss like snakes. But before we do, what I want you to do is take your hand like this. And I want you to blow on your hand like you're going to fog up a mirror and draw a smiley face in it. Okay, now I want you to blow on your hand, but like it's a really specific point on your hand. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so that first air, that was hot air. We don't want to use hot air. We want to use that second cooler air while we are hissing like snakes. So, promise this is going to tie in later to what we're doing. So, here's what I want you to do. We are going to start out hissing at a softer level and then slowly crescendo. So it's going to sound like this. Can you try that with me? Here we go. Ready? Okay, now we're going to do that. But I'm going to play piano, but we're still going to hiss like snakes. So it's going to be like this. So as I go up, again, still crescendoing with that like a snake. So here we go. Ooh. So try that with me. So no singing, still hissing. Here we go. Ready? And. Great. All right. Now we're going to do the opposite. Starting out with a louder snake hiss and then coming back down. So here we go. Try that with me. Ready? All right, now we're gonna do it with piano. You're still hissing, but with the piano. Here we go. Ready? Okay, now, instead of hissing like snakes, we're going to sing like human beings. And we are going to sing on ah. So think about that air. So, and think about the same amount of air you were doing with hissing, but we are going to sing, okay? So here we go. All right, do it with me. Here we go. Ready? And. All right, so this is showing the students, that you need more air as you go up, and then less air as you go down. And so this is going to tie into the music later. So, and then we would go back down. I'm not going to keep going on that. All right, next we are going to do some yaw sighs. So, yaw, nice and sloppy all the way down. Yaw, and I have my kids look at themselves, find themselves in the little Brady Bunch style. If you don't see people Brady Bunch style, click on where it says gallery view. Sometimes if they're not opening their mouths, they say, look at yourself and go like this. Yeah. So that way they're like looking at themselves and making sure, that they're actually opening their mouths. So you can do that if you want. It's up to you. But either way, yeah. Here we go. 1, 2, ready. Yeah. Like I said, I'm pretending this is also sectional, so feel free to adjust range as needed. Okay, now, one of my students' favorites, dental floss is very good for teeth. So, dental floss is very good for teeth. So go ahead and say that with me. Ready? And dental floss is very good for teeth. Okay, warming up the articulators. All right, here we go. Dental floss is very good for teeth. Try it with me. 1, 2, ready, and dental floss is very good for teeth. Dental floss is very good for teeth. Dental floss is very good for teeth. Nice big breaths. Dental floss is very good for teeth. 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 One more. Dental floss is very good for teeth. And so I try to look over, make sure kids are singing, opening their mouths. Ideally, I would have this set up here, but I have a tiny apartment. I'm supposed to be moving into my new house on April 2nd, but at this point, I don't know if that's going to happen. But eventually, I'll have a pretty sweet setup. But right now, I have a very tiny apartment, and this is the only place that our keyboard can go. And so I do look over. Sometimes I do not play the right notes, and my students and I laugh together, and life goes on. So, you know, it's okay if you make mistakes. I'm always extra nervous on those first rehearsals, especially virtually, because you can't hear kids. And they're just kind of staring at you, you know, you can't really hear if they're laughing at your jokes. You can kind of see them a little bit, but, you know, it is definitely a little bit disorienting at first. Okay, last thing that we're going to do, ma, me, me, mo, moo. So I will stand back up for this one. All right, so here we go. We are going to have different gestures for ma, me, me, mo, moo, and I did not come up with this, and I can't remember who I learned this from off the top of my head, but here we go. So just repeat after me, and you're going to do the hand gestures with me. So yes, you got to do them. That's what I tell my kids. We don't join choir to look cool together. We join choir to sing beautiful music and to look uncool together. So if your family's looking at you like, you know, you're bananas, that's okay. We're looking bananas together. So here we go. Ready? Repeat after me. Ma, me, me, mo, moo. Okay, one more time. Here we go. Ready? Ma, me, me, mo, moo. All right, so here we go. Let's try singing it. Just on one note for now. And here, I'll give you. Here we go. Ready? Breathe. Ma, me, me, mo, moo. Okay, and we'll do one more. Breathe. Okay, great. So all these things that I do in my warm-up, they're going to come up later on when I'm teaching the piece. So go ahead and you can sit down if you want. So I let kids sit down because some of them need to, you know, look at their music and sit down. You can stay standing if you want. You can sit. It doesn't matter at this point. I at least have them stand for the whole warm-up. But some of them, you know, the music is on their computer, so they're like squinting at their computer if they're like standing up. I'm like, I don't need to see your face like that. So sit however it's going to be comfortable. And I know most of you sat down, you're like, oh great, Mrs. Rose is my kids call me Mrs. Rose, no longer torturing me, no longer making me stand. It's pure torture. I joined online school so I could sit on my bed all day. But alas, here we are. Okay, so between the bells. So we are pretending like we have learned measures 5 through 19. And so something that I am sure will come up. So we're going to be looking at the alto part specifically. Okay. Oh, I see the chat. You don't see the gallery view option. Yeah, so it should be at the top right. If you are on your phone, there isn't really a gallery view option, unfortunately. Usually you can either see one person, yourself, or if you swipe, you can see more people. So that's kind of the bummer thing about, you know, if you join on your phone. Your computer is what allows you to see everyone. Okay, so I would listen to kids, and I would say, oh, that second ending, so that's measure 14 on page 3. So that is where we're having trouble, especially when we get into rain. We're getting up to that high D for altos, and we're just trying to eke it out. And so here is what we're going to do. So we're going to start in still between, so that's in measure 11, and go into the second ending. And so when we do this, you'll see it's ascending and then descending. So thinking about the air we use, the snake hissing, that same air while you're singing going up between every drop of falling rain, that is going to be your highest point or your loudest hiss, your most air, and then it'll go back down, just like we practiced earlier. So let's try that. So that's where we'll start the still between. So I'll give you, let's see, I'll give you 2. And sometimes what I do is if it's still fairly new, I will model first and then have students repeat after me, which we'll try in a bit. I'm going to assume that you know this part, and even if you don't, just sing along. So my students don't unmute here. And so, because if they did unmute, it would sound like a cacophony because of all the different lag speeds. So I can't hear them exactly in time, but how I know if they've picked up what they've learned, what I've taught them or not, is I will assign them the smart music assignment. And so I can hear through that. So the feedback is not instant. It's a little bit of a rehearsal delay. So, if I think, that they still need this part again, if I need to hear them again, I don't think they're going to get it, or I'm not sure, I'll assign this and something else, small little snippets. So that way I can hear if they've got it or not. And if they haven't, we'll revisit it. So yeah, I can't correct in the moment, but that doesn't, someone's sharing their screen. Hold on. I don't know who's sharing your screen, but can you stop? Ooh. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't turn the screen share feature off. Okay, if one student unmutes and demonstrates, can the other kids hear them? Yes. So if one of you unmuted right now, I would be able to hear you. So, so sometimes, I will have students demonstrate or sing out loud, but I only have 2 30-minute rehearsals a week, so I kind of got to push through. If I had a rehearsal every day for an hour, would I be having more kids sing out loud? Yes. But, I don't have the time, and some things just have to give with 2 30-minute rehearsals a week. So, you can definitely, if you are going to plan to see your kids, every day, if your school is requiring you to do e-learning every day, sure. I mean, the sky's the limit. If you have limited amounts of time, this is kind of the best way to get some learning done, hear students sing after, see if they picked it up, and then come back and do that again. So, all right. So, the still between every drop of falling. Thinking about that, okay, see that one question. You can mute anybody as a host. So if there's a manage participants option, and so I can rename people, I can unmute people. So I'm gonna go ahead and I will unmute Abby. You're first on my list. So if I unmute Abby, and maybe she can't unmute. I unmuted Alicia and Abby. So now I could hear them if they said something. You want to say hi? Okay, there you go. So, and then I will mute them again. You can also turn off kids' cameras and rename them. Before going into the first rehearsal, I just say use just your first name. Like, don't call yourself something silly. Again, just, normal classroom procedure kind of things. Okay, here we go. I promise, we're gonna sing now. And still between every drop of falling rain, thinking about that air going up and air going down. And you already know this, I know you're choir teachers. I'm just like, I'm in the rehearsal mindset. So here we go. 1, 2, and still between every drop of a falling rain. Okay, so then I might cut them off there and say, okay, when you get to rain, don't say rain, wren, kind of like the bird, wren. And I would say, okay, write it in your music, W-R-E-N, wren, and then you can get closer to rain as it goes down. You don't need to hear your students in the moment to know that they're probably doing that if you heard them in Smart Music that week. Like, they're probably not going to fix that on their own, right? So that's how, is this ideal? No. Would having an in-person rehearsal be the best? Yes. But this is something, again, that can get your students to still be singing with proper technique, giving instruction, all that. Okay, so let's try it one more time. Here we go. And still between drops falling all the way through rain and the first dew. 1, 2, and still between every drop of a falling rain. Okay, so then I might be saying, okay, when you sing these do's, do, like we did ma, me, mi, mo, mu, do. Do that with me. Ready with the hand movement. Do. Okay, so we're going to take it from rain into do, and when we get onto do, I want you to do the hand movement. So rain, and then do. So here we go. Ready, 2, ready on rain. Okay, great. Now, no more rain. We have do again. So, same thing, do. Whoops, hold on. Sorry. I'm trying to do this and look at you and all this. So sometimes, if I'm doing too much, then I'm not like the world's best piano player. My husband is a pianist, and he's home right now, but he's usually not. It's usually just me. Okay, so. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. Do. You're going to do the hand movement. I'm going to trust that you're doing it, and I'm going to concentrate on playing piano. Here we go. Ready? And. And then we might practice that a couple of times because the interval's a little different. Alto parts, they're the good stuff in the cake. They have the fun parts. I always encourage my altos. I'm like, listen to how cool that sounds. Not like, how difficult is that? But that's so cool. Trying to convince them. Okay. Now, learning new parts. This is the last little thing we're going to do. Oh no, my computer is dying. So first of all, you will find quickly that your technology will fail you very often while you're teaching virtually. Your Wi-Fi will go out at unexpected times. Your printer will stop working for real. Your computer will have a magic update or a restart. It will happen to your students too. They're not lying. I promise you. At first you're like, how could they possibly have this many tech issues? And then you start having them yourself. So give yourself grace, give them grace. Technology tends to fail very often, but that's okay. It's also a miraculous thing, bring us all together. Okay, so here's how I teach new parts. I do a lot of just rote, me, then you. Ideally, would I do that? Probably not. But since I have 2 30-minute rehearsals a week and I want kids to be singing, this is what we got to do. So here we go. Next part, starting at measure 19. So I'll do this. So listen first, and then we'll sing together. Listen first. 1, 2. Where is the star that leads the way? Okay, you try it with me. 1, 2, breathe. Where is the star that leads the way? Okay, next part. Here we go. Where is the voice? Listen first. And we'll go through truth. So here we go. Listen first. 1, 2, What? 1, 2. Where is the voice to tell the truth? Okay, try that with me. And sometimes if it's tricky, I'll play it, 2 times. So here we go. Sing it with me. 1, 2. Where is the voice to tell the truth? Okay, let's put those 2 parts together. Here we go. From pickups into 19, where is the star? 1, 2. Where is the star that leads the way? 3. The voice to tell the truth. Okay, and so then I would go through the rest of this section kind of like this, and we would chunk it together, and we would chunk it from the part that we just worked on before, and all that fun stuff that you already know how to do as wonderful choir directors. So now, that is what I do, essentially. Now, before I let them go, though, I always show them exactly where their recording assignment is. Every time, no matter how many times they have recorded something in Smart Music or recorded something in Soundtrap, I show them every time. In virtual, you have to be very explicit. The more you can screen share and show step by step, the more likely it is that kids will complete something. So I'm going to share my entire screen this time. Okay. So if you were in my class, I would say, all right, so like I said, this piece is actually for the virtual choir that the IMES virtual choir is doing, which you should learn and participate in. It'd be awesome. You already learned part of it today if you're going to sing the alto part. But I would tell my students, okay, so for Soundtrap, it is, sometimes I give them time to record in class. So there is an option to put students into breakout rooms. This would put them into separate rooms, and sometimes I'll have them screen share their screen. So I'll have them bring up Soundtrap or Smart Music or whatever and have them screen share that so I can see, help a kid if they can't log in or, if they're having issues or whatever. And that also kind of gives them practice time, like, okay, I have to be practicing now because, Mrs. Rose is going to be coming around to make sure that I'm doing that. Kind of just like a little more motivation for maybe a couple of your kids, especially if they're kind of hesitant to practice on their own. It gives them structured time. The screen sharing helps keep them accountable. And like I said, it can also help you diagnose issues. And you can ask them to turn their mics on so you can listen as you go through. Again, that is the breakout room feature. And so in Zoom, you would just create breakout rooms. So if you can see here, I went into more and then breakout rooms. I'm not going to put you in them because it'll take a while to create them and then move you all back. But I would say if you're going to do breakout rooms, give yourself at least 15 to 20 minutes to get kids in. And then you'll be able to go into each separate room. And so kids will not be able to... you can create it where kids are each in a separate room and they won't be able to hear each other. So I see lots of things coming in through the chat. Zoom is free. Zoom is free for education right now. I do have an education account that is FERPA friendly, so just check on that. Soundtrap. Did I don't know. I don't know about Roundtrap. Do I have Roundtrap on here? It is just Soundtrap. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so then I will say, all right, so if I give them time to record, like I said, I'll make breakout rooms. Now, I will put down here what they need to do, and I will say, all right, here's how you get to it. So here is Soundtrap. You're going to log into Soundtrap, and then you are going to click on this project here. And yes, I know you may think like, oh, kids are so tech savvy, they know how to do this already. Ooh. Or open project. My computer is getting very hot, so I might have some trouble. And so I will say, and then I will explain, all right, so you need to find your name after it loads. So there's my name. You can see it right here, Alto 2. Double check to make sure that you are recording in your part and not someone else's. And then I would explain, go through, okay, if you want to listen to just your part, there you go, while you're recording. if you're going to listen to your part and record at the same time, please make sure you use headphones so that does not come through. And so I just hear your beauteous voice is what I tell them over and over again. Especially if they're using smart music, I make them play with a metronome. And if they don't use headphones, you hear a whole lot of ticking. This is what it looks like. Just real quick, this last little thing. This is what it looks like. So I have a student account for smart music for my kiddos, and so I just so I can show them exactly what it says. So I always put the due date here. I know the due date is here, but for some reason this is like, my kids don't see this. Due date, I did not see that, even though it has its own separate column. So I put it in the assignment name so they have no excuse. So you can see my students, I extended this due date here, but they would click on this and then it just opens up what they're working on. And so I say, okay, make sure you click on what voice part you are. And I'll say, okay, this is what you're going to work on. Here's what I want you to focus on, all that kind of thing. And so I click through and show very explicitly every time, because it just, like I said, for some reason, it just guarantees more kids are going to do it. Okay, so that is the gist of how to run a virtual rehearsal, and I kind of just rinse and repeat. So I will, again, listen to whatever kids submit and then make adjustments for next time. For full choir, so I do a full choir rehearsal. So I do one sectional for each voice part each week, 30 minutes, and then one full choir rehearsal. Full choir rehearsal, just working on general things like full choir dynamic changes, or, full choir rhythm that is kind of difficult and everybody has it, something like that. So just kind of more general things. All right, so Zoom peeps here, do you have questions? I know there might be stuff happening in Facebook. I'm going to look at that afterwards, but okay. Your school uses Canvas and you always put due date in the assignment type. I know, even though the due dates are in places, like my kids just they just don't see them unless it's like in the title. Was your music in smart music to start with, or did you have to load it in? So all of my music for this semester is not in smart music. So I loaded it in. I have an app on my phone that will kind of, so I can scan the score and then it'll put it into a music XLM file and it'll kind of help me with dictating that. So it is a little bit of a time-consuming process, but the app definitely does help. So I put it into Sibelius, and then if you export it as a music XLM or XML, can't remember what it was, file, then you can upload it through Compose in Smart Music, and then it will be there. Okay. Is Soundtrap part of the Smart Music program? Nope, they're two separate things. I just wanted to show you like both options. So the virtual choir through IMES is through Soundtrap. I use Smart Music just because my band kiddos also use Smart Music. It's just kind of easier to have it all in one place for me. The gallery view option is not available when I'm screen sharing. So you can only see all the people when there isn't screen share or anything like that. How does combining the tracks in GarageBand? No, it does not sound cacophonous having it all play together, actually, because I have my students, so with Smart Music, I have them all sing to the same tempo. And so because of that, their parts, as long as they're singing the right rhythms and actually using the metronome, they line up pretty well. For my final performances, I'll do a few edits, just because it is difficult to line up your part exactly when you're not singing with other people. But no, I mean, so I can't stream like what this sounds like just because I don't have the rights to be able to stream it to all of you live right now. But it sounds like, I don't know, a choir and a band. Like it's not, it's actually works pretty well. Like I said, as long as your kids are all singing at the same tempo. How did you set up your kids' tracks in Soundtrack? Did you make the individual? Okay, so I did not set up the things in Soundtrap. So if you want to talk to Tracy, join the IMES Virtual Choir Festival, and I don't remember. I'll link to it in the comments after this, or you can search for it. But I don't know how she set it up. I was just giving that example because of that's what the piece that we're doing will be in. Okay. Could you show us a demo of how you've done? Yes. So I was planning to do a deep dive into how to put tracks together in GarageBand. So I'll probably do that later this week after I get some more sleep. But it is on my list because it was in that survey. Okay. The biggest thing to remember here is you're really going to have trouble students with something that they've never used before. If your kids have never used Soundtrap, they're already, okay. Yes, so here's what I would do. So whenever I'm introducing something new, so Zoom and Smart Music were new to my kiddos when I started too. And so the first rehearsal is you're really not going to sing that much. It's just going to be, okay, getting logged into Zoom, and then getting logged into Smart Music, and then I go step by step, and I usually just have something really easy in Smart Music, like 5 notes, whole notes or something like that. So that way kids can kind of see it and we can walk through it together, and if they're having any tech issues, we can talk about it. Like I said, using those breakout rooms for individual help. But it can be, a little bit of a learning curve at first, but your kids can definitely do it. It's not like they're having to log into, and so here's what I would say. Try to pick like 1 or 2 things. Pick either Soundtrack or Smart Music, or like pick one place that your kids are going to record. If it's right into Google Classroom, that's fine, or Flipgrid, or wherever it is. One place they're going to record, and then meeting in Zoom. So that way it's just 2 things. That's what I would recommend. And so Zoom, and then step by step, and have students pull it up and click along with you. Say, okay, I need you to pull this up. Put a smiley face in the chat once you have it pulled up, and that way, or give me a thumbs up once you have it pulled up, something like that. And then say, okay, we're gonna click here. Everybody click here. That kind of thing. Can you put small groups in breakout rooms? Yes. So you can put any amount of kids in breakout rooms. So when I bring up breakout rooms, it will say assign participants into 5 rooms. So that means 4 of you would go in, and then you can either assign automatically or you can put kids in manually. So if you want to put specific kids in specific rooms, you can put them in manually. If you want to put them in individual rooms, you would just put 20, and it'd say 1 per room. And create the rooms, then the kids would join them, and you can go through them. Okay, awesome questions. So it's, okay, so it's up here under more, and then breakout rooms. How many students do you have in your virtual choir? I have about 20 this semester in grades 6 through 12, so pretty wide range, but that's what I have, so that's what I'm working with. Yeah, so you're not going to be able to create breakout rooms because I am hosting this session. So when you create your own Zoom session, you'll be able to have more of these features. Right now, you're just a participant or an attendee or whatever. So you can't change what I have on my screen right now. You can't play around with it because I am sharing and I am hosting. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, what I would recommend is creating a Zoom account and then just go ahead and play around with this. One more thing is that when you came in, it said, this meeting is being recorded. And so I have set my meetings to automatically record. That way, if a kid can't come to a rehearsal, they can still view the recording, and I have it set to automatically record so I don't have to remember to press that record button. I did a 3-series post on classroom management in Zoom on Instagram. If you want to check that out, my handle is the_musical_rose. And so I can link to that to just a couple of the settings I highlighted specifically for Zoom in a post series that I did recently. Yes, so yes, so you'll have to send it out. And so what I do, let me see if I can bring it up real quick. So I always go ahead, and I'm gonna put this here just because I think my personal meeting space may come up. So just so you won't see my personal name. Okay, great. So if you go into recordings, sorry, I just didn't want my personal Zoom number to show up since this is public. I'm gonna minimize this right now. So you can see this is in process right now. So this is what it is. This, for example, so I haven't posted these recordings from, so here you go. From full choir from March 13th is here. And so what you can do, I usually delete the chat file, just so, you know, technically we're not supposed to be showing full student names. It should be first initial, last name, or first name and last initial if you're going to be recording something and sending it out. It's just FERPA friendly practice. So I usually just delete the chat file, usually nothing in there. Unless I need to save it, you can save it. But usually, you know, the main bulk is coming from what, you know, I'm saying. And then you can copy your shareable link here. And so if you send this link out to students, they'll be able to view the whole thing. And so usually I send an email out to students who didn't come and say, we missed you during full choir rehearsal, here's the link. Or you can just send a blanket email out to students like, hey, we had full choir rehearsal, here's what we talked about, here's the link if you want to go back and review it, or if you weren't able to make it. Or if you have, you know, a central location, if you have Google Classroom, if you have Canvas or whatever, you can just create, so for in my LMS, we use D2L. And so in that, I just have a module that just says rehearsal recordings. And so I have the date and a link to the rehearsal. All right, awesome. Any other questions? Okay, we're right at 5. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out anytime. I am here to try to help. If you feel overwhelmed, please reach out. I know it can feel like a lot, but I promise you we're going to get through it. I'm so glad that I could see some music teachers in person. You know, it kind of feels nice to just like be with your people, you know, and this is what we can do with our kids too. So thanks for coming in today. Thank you for anyone who's in the Facebook live stream. If you have questions, please let me know. I'll be around in the group. Tag me in things. If I don't respond to you, tag me again, I promise. Is there a limit to how many people can be in your live Zoom? I think it's 100 at one time. So unless your choir is very massive, if you have over 100 people in your choir, that's pretty cool. But 100 is the max for right now. I think you can get up to like 1,000 if you pay for the business enterprise one. But if you have over 100 kids, I would just say break them up into smaller groups. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and head out. I will post this link later just so you can see it. And thank you. This is great. Have a good one. And good luck teaching choir. You can do it. I believe in you. Bye all. All right. And thank you all on Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and end this video now.